Right, who am I? I am a pop culture nerd who is obsessed with sci-fi, horror, fantasy, and television just in general. Bruce Campbell is my god. So if you want to hang out with me, you got to understand that the man can do absolutely no wrong. I'm the kind of person that I'm adventurous. I like to do things. I like going out and drinking and having fun with my friends. But I'm also very adventurous, and I like to fly by the seat of my pants. Once years ago, actually, I was working and I called in sick to work one day, and I thought, you know what? I thought better of it. I thought, this isn't really doing it for me. So I just called right back. I quit my job, and within a week, I found myself on a bus on my way to the high Arctic. Yes, Canada's high Arctic. I ended up living in a little town called Inuvik, which is, well, it's more than north of 60, let's just say. Arctic Ocean, 100 miles south. I mean, sorry, it was 100 miles north of where I was. Yeah, I was pretty close. Beaufort Sea. Yeah, I was there. And yeah, and speaking of the Arctic, one of the other things about the Arctic is that that's where I learned how to barbecue. That's another one of my passions and something I'm kind of nerdy about. I'm nerdy about food. I think it's possible to be nerdy about food. It's possible to be nerdy about a few different things. I was born in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and basically, as soon as I turned 17 years old, I wanted to get the HE double hockey sticks out of Thunder Bay and moved to the big city of Toronto, Ontario. My parents were very, very supportive, and were always they raised me to be fiercely independent. So, you know, basically here I am. I can honestly say though, when I became a nerd, or when I sort of maybe, I don't even know if I realized that I was a nerd. It's when I first, the first stirrings of in my nether nerdy regions is when I saw a madman in a blue box with a crazy scarf, ripping through time and space. Yeah, I was hooked. I was so young. We used to watch it. We had what I called peasant vision. We didn't have cable. In Canada, we had a TV station called TVO, and I watched all sorts of British television programs and movies and, you know, made-for-TV movies and that sort of thing. But Doctor Who was something that caught my attention and something that I used to watch with my dad on a regular basis. You know, the Daleks to me, terrifying, So that's pretty much, I guess, when I sort of started on that, the path of nerdiness. There's one thing though about my nerdiness that, I mean, there's so many things that I've done and accomplished, but one of the things that I can honestly say is that I was one of the very last customers when the Star Trek experience in Vegas closed down. I was one of the last customers to order a warp core breach. Yummy goodness. Lots of dry ice, but still yummy goodness. I also tried to steal the Latinum off of Ferengi. Didn't work out quite so well. But yeah, it was the last weekend that it was open, so I felt very fortunate. I was at a Star Trek convention in Vegas, and it was probably one of the coolest conventions I've ever been to, one of the best experiences of my life. I was there just before, you know, the first new Star Trek movie came out, and Zach Quinto was actually there, and I got to meet him. I ran into him in the hall, and wow, that was super cool, you know. Spock. I hadn't met Leonard Nimoy yet, and it was really quite something to go to that convention. And also, one of the other things that was really, you know, pretty amazing was Majel Barrett was there, or Roddenberry. She, I remember when I saw her, I remember thinking, wow, this is incredible. I'm meeting the First Lady of Star Trek. When will this happen again? Unfortunately, she did pass away sometime after that, not too long. Anyway. On to the next. So, yeah, if there's anything that I know better than anybody else, I would say definitely it has to do with pop culture and television. And not just, you know, science fiction and horror and fantasy, but television as a whole. I really had incredible parents, but essentially I was probably one of the last of my generation, or last of a generation of latchkey kids. You know, my mother went to work when she was, you know, able to, since the kids were old enough to be on their own. And I lived in a small town, well, I mean, by, you know, Toronto or New York or LA or whatever standards, or London, it's a lot smaller. It was a lot more trusting back then. So, you know, I would just come home after school and wait for my mom to get home, and I'd turn on the TV, and you know, the TV was basically partly responsible for raising me. Also, another thing that I know way too much about, I would say, would be Harry Potter. I'm kind of obsessed. Yeah, I have the Gryffindor uniform. Well, this isn't really canon, but I just wanted, oh, I'm going to put on this, I'm going to put on that. I have my robes in the closet. It's really warm here right now, so I didn't really want to wear all of that. But for some odd reason, on Pottermore, I was sorted into Slytherin. I don't know why that would, I don't know why that would be. But anyway, it's kind of all consuming to me. Really, yeah. And a few things, a list of things that I've done, really, academic achievements. Okay, let's stick with the kind of sort of nerdy. We'll try to keep it nerdy. Of course, I've met Bruce Campbell 3 times. Well, actually, 3.5. 3 times I've made an ass of myself, a complete and utter ass of myself. But on the halftime, or the half of the third and a half time that I met him, I think that I redeemed myself. It may have involved a bottle of vodka, but I think I did. The next thing, I started making my own costumes. I think it was in about grade 3. I mean, they were pretty much, scraps of fabric or clothing that I would take and just sort of tear up and cut up and put together costumes. My mom wasn't really impressed, considering I was using my clothing to do it sometimes, not just spare fabric. My grandmother had a sewing machine back at her home, so I would go there and I'd even sew little costumes for Barbies and things like that. I always wrote the short stories in school that my teachers were excited to hear about or hear from. And I was actually published back in grade 5, which was actually kind of cool. And also a very big accomplishment, considering this is pre-internet. So, I mean, anybody can pretty much publish themselves at this point. But at that point, no. This was before the internet. I was published. I was in grade 5. I was very, very young. I also represented the Northwestern Ontario students at a Young Authors Conference, which was super, super cool. So people from all over Ontario came together. It was like this little round table thing, and we all got together and told stories. Told stories. We read our stories, and we had, prominent authors critiquing our work, which was awesome. Another thing that I think that I'm really proud of is that I have flown from coast to coast to coast and to coast. I've actually been to Resolute Bay, which is the furthest point north domestically that you can fly without being in the military or being, some kind of scientist, which I'm not. Another thing that's super, super cool, I was one of the very fortunate people that was a part of one of the audiences that got to witness the reunion of the TNG cast and attend the Q&A, and also meet a certain knight that we all know. Yeah, I met Sir Patrick Stewart, bitches. Yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool. Another thing that's really cool, I think, one of my accomplishments is I won a hell of a lot of contests. And one of the contests that I won, actually the one that started it out, was a contest for True Blood. So therefore it's nerdy. And I won a trip to New Orleans. And of course I took that trip to New Orleans on Halloween weekend. And of course, what are you going to do when you go to New Orleans? You're going to dress up in your Merlot's uniform. What else would you wear? Come on. Unfortunately, red hair. I had to be Arlene. Poor girl. Yeah. Poor girl. Anyway, one of the other things that I have to say is another thing that I guess would be kind of nerdy. For 2 years running, I was the representative of my school and won in a citywide competition of speech writing and a speech contest. 2 years, and I was also, this is all before grade 9, so that was pretty cool. So speaking in front of an entire audience of not just, your peers, but also adults and everything else, that was, that was quite an accomplishment for someone who, I think I was in grade maybe 5 and 6 or 4 and 5. Honestly, I can't really remember. Now, last but not least, and super nerdy, but one of my most awesome accomplishments ever, Nathan Fillion tweeted and retweeted me. Yes, this girl, me. Well, I took that Twitter account, I kind of closed it down, I opened a new one, but I closed that one down, so, one of the very last things that you see on the screen, it's his retweet to me. This girl, me. When it comes down to, essentially, I guess, if you want to describe me, I think my action figure collection can really describe my personality. I've named it My Mormon Manwives of My Delusional County. Basically, it started because several years ago I saw Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and I thought they are ridiculously funny. They sort of encompass everything that I find funny, humorous. And I thought, I want to marry them. And, I want to marry not just Matt, but I want to marry Trey. Let's make this happen. Well, they're also obsessed with Mormonism, so I kind of thought, hey, why not in reverse? Why can't I be the person with the wifeys? Me. So this is sort of an idea I had way back when. Anyway, I've had over the years friends of mine who've, I wasn't collecting action figures at the time, but people would just, birthdays and such, they would buy me an action figure. Before I knew it, I had a little collection of them, and I thought, well, I'm going to start collecting action figures. I already am. I didn't mean to. It just sort of happened. So I decided to call my collection My Mormon Manwives of My Delusional County. Now, it's not something that I collect. I don't collect a certain series of things. I don't collect, action figures because they're rarer than others. The reason I collect them is because I can take these little action figures of my favorite characters and whatever series, cartoons, comics, movies, take my favorite little characters, chain them up to a wall with a little bit of wiggle room so, they can wiggle. And, those would be my Mormon Manwives in my delusional county. So, and I guess, well, you might have noticed by now I'm a little chatty. Sometimes I just really don't know when to stop. I always feel like I have more to say, and honestly, I think everybody really should hear what I have to say. It's, kind of important. One of the things that does drive me a little bit crazy, though, when it comes to going to conventions, are the anime kids that don't buy tickets to go into the convention, and instead, they just stand outside of the convention, clogging up the aisles, dancing, clapping, and giving out free hugs. Like, come on, move. Like, I paid a lot of good money just so I want to get in there on time. Sir Patrick's going to be on stage in, 2 minutes, and there's so many of you. Go, move, or buy a ticket. Come on. I don't have a lot of money, but I find my ways. I get in. You can too. It's not hard. Please. Anyways, I guess one of the reasons why I want to be King of the Nerds, not only because I did absolutely love and adore season 1, but I also have friends that feel that to be a nerd, you have to be more like, a techie nerd or an academic nerd. I call myself a pop culture nerd. And I would like to say that we can be just as geeky and I can still kick their butts. I'm that kind of person. I just have a way of figuring things out. I can solve a problem. I can look at a problem. I can just solve it. I can't tell you how I did it, but I can do it. Really, I have a lot of nerdy friends. I'd really like to take this title and just kind of lord it over them and say, ha ha, I'm the king of the nerds. That is me. Also, I don't lose, period. I don't lose. It's not an option. I'll do whatever I need to do to win that title. Now, whether or not it is bribing them with my awesome barbecue. Did I mention before that I am awesome at barbecue? I know how to grill. Believe me, I know how to grill. So I'm not above using that to maybe sway their opinions of me or, maybe get in their good graces. I'm also not above begging. As far as I'm concerned, every little tactic counts, and I will do whatever I can to win that title. I will do it. No, nothing can stop me. Also, really, I don't want to grow up, because one of the things that I've learned, at my age, you're not always as smart as you want to be. You can always be smarter. You can always learn. As far as I'm concerned, the act of growing up, I don't mind the act of growing up, but I don't want to be grown up, because that means that, perhaps that I'm finished learning. I never want to be finished learning. To me, that's so important. And I think one of the things that makes me unique, more so than the average viewer, is my knowledge about television. My friends call me kind of Rain Man when it comes to it. It's almost creepy at times. And, there are questions that are asked that people didn't even realize that it was a question until I come up with the answer. And I do it all without the help of Google. Just because like I said, I'm like Rain Man when it comes to, television, pop culture, actually. It's something that it's something I'm passionate about. And then, I don't really know what else to say except please, please, please choose me to be on the program. I really wish I could show you my collection right now, but unfortunately it's in storage. I moved not too long ago and everything is in the storage closet, and we have a whole bunch of stuff here in the apartment, and there really just isn't a whole lot of room. But honestly, I have like I have not just the action figures. I've got different kinds of toys and memorabilia and just different things from different genres. And also I until I get that wall set up with the chains, so that I can create a couple of Mormon man wives. I don't really kind of want to put it on camera unless I really really have to, or somebody wants to help me build that wall. Anyway, once again, my name is Cathy Fraser, and please, please, please choose me to be on the program. I know you won't be disappointed.